my name is Veronica and welcome to my YouTube channel. On today's video, I'll be showing you how I am transplanting my plants. This is the first stage of transplantation before they'll be going into my garden. Right now it's still really cold outside, so we're nowhere near close to the point that they can go outside, but I'll be transferring them into these little containers and putting them back into my preset greenhouse, household greenhouse, I guess. I'll be showing you everything, so let's get started.
It is still very cold here in Canada, so if you want to start planting, you need to start indoors at least 5 weeks before the planting season, which is here, starts in June. So I'm using this greenhouse. It's a completely insulated house and it's very reflective. So what I have my seeds planted in this little containers. They're like tons of little containers inside this box, and each seed goes inside each container and it goes over a warming pad that is plugged in, and then there is a light, growth light, that I hook at the top of the greenhouse, and then I can just close it up, and actually you don't see any of the pink light coming through. So that's very convenient. You can have this greenhouse anywhere. I have it in my basement. So this is how I start my seedlings, and I had them in this house for about a month, and this is what they look like now. So it's time to transplant them. For the transplantation, I'll be using these pots. I need a fork and a spoon, some soil, and a plant food fertilizer that I'll be using once I have transplanted them. Here you see I planted lots of tomatoes and some basil. I also planted something like lettuce, I think it was, and some marigold. So there we are, and let's start transplanting. Now I have to say, I really love starting seeds indoors. I find that the little plants that turn out in this greenhouse are very strong and they are very resistant. Actually, my husband usually does the planting and this whole care process until it goes in the garden, and I find that our tomatoes are always really great and very strong plants. I'm using those little indication markings. So it is just a paper clip with a dot in a color that corresponds to the type of the plant that I planted, just so that we know what type of tomatoes we planted and where they go. Of course, since this is a lengthy process, a cup of tea is a must. Now that the whole world is in a lockdown, I find that this is a really fun activity to do, because not only you get the vegetables at the end, but it's also really fun to see the process of the plant growing from this little seed to this little seedling and then the little plant and so on. So I just find the process very rewarding. And this greenhouse that we have, this is actually an all-year greenhouse, so you could potentially keep your plants in there all year round and harvest fruits. I never tried to do that, but I think I might give it a try eventually. But right now I'm just using it to start my seeds indoors. As you can see, I'm prying out the root bulb with a fork starting at the corner of the container, just so that I don't damage any root. Really, if you do damage some of it, it's still okay. I sometimes remove it and half of it still stays inside, so it's not a big deal. But still, if you do manage to pull out the entire root bulb, that's actually most beneficial and your plant will do better. And then I just put some soil over already half-filled container. So initially I fill it about half with the soil so that the root bulb has something to rest on, and then just fill up to the brim with the rest of the soil. I also add my paperclip indicator, and that's it. That's all I do to get all my tomatoes out. It's just a lengthy process, but really it's not very complicated. I have a little guest coming to my video since he woke up a little bit earlier from his nap, so he'll be just coming in and out, trying to help me out with the transplantation process. So now I'm just putting the marigolds in their own pot. This is a pot I'll be using outdoors. Once it gets a little warmer, I'll start putting them outside, at least for the daytime. And I might or might not keep them in that pot, depending how big they get. If they get too big, I'll just separate them into a couple other pots, but for now, this looks the best. I would not recommend starting lettuce and other leafy green vegetables earlier indoors. I don't think they're really designed for it. You can see how overgrown the roots are. So I'm gonna plant them in a separate pot, as well as basil. Basil actually did really well, so so I'm gonna add a couple marigolds in there. But that's it. I have a pot with marigolds, pot with basil, and a pot with some lettuce. Everything would go outside the moment I can actually keep them outside for, like I said, at least the daytime. For this particular fertilizer, I'm using 1 liter of water and 5 milliliters of this fertilizer liquid, and then just add it straight into the pot, into each of the little pots. And that's that. They are ready to go and to be carried back into the greenhouse to be stored there until it's warm enough to transplant them into even bigger pots before the final transplantation into the garden bed.
you more anything.
Thank you. That's so nice. I love you more than anything too.
So it's been about 10 days since I transplanted my plants, and you can see they are looking so good and so strong. Just keep remembering to water them. That's really all they need, and a little bit of fertilizer here and there, and they'll be perfect for the upcoming season, giving lots and lots of fruits. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more home related information. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.